Happy Monday, Year 5. Welcome to your math lesson for today. Brand new week. Today we're going to have a look at area, taking on our work from perimeter that we looked at on Friday. But we are going to, as we always do, start with our flashback for mental maths questions. There are 4 questions for today, plus the clock face to the right hand side there. Pause the video and give yourself 30 seconds. Now, question number 1. Change 11/3 into a mixed number fraction. So if I've got 11/3, how many wholes can I make? If each whole is made up of 3, I can make 3 wholes, which uses 9 of my thirds, but I started with 11/3, so I have 2/3 remaining. My mixed number fraction, which is equivalent to 11/3, is 3 and 2/3. Question 2 complete. 7/10 is the same as something 30ths. Well, I've times 10 by 3 to get to 30 here, so I must do the same to my numerator. 7 times 3 will give me 21. We now have 2 fractions which look different but are equivalent. They represent the same. Question 3, work out 165 times 7, a bit of a recap from our multiplication lessons. To do that, I would do it in the column method. And because I'm a bit short of space, I'm just going to write the answer in here, which is 1,155. And then finally, before we go on to the time question, Annie has £27. She spends £4.50. How much money does she have left? She has £22.50 left. Pound sign in. Terrible pound sign, but you know what it is. And then the clock face there is showing the time 4:15 or 4:15. So, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, today's lesson is going to look at the area of rectangles. Today we are looking at the word area and the mathematical term area, which, as I said on Friday, runs side by side with perimeter. But we need to make sure we do not get the two mixed up. So perimeter we talked about being the distance around the outside. When I'm talking about area, if I'm looking at the area of a shape, I am looking at the space inside the shape. So if I'm highlighting it on here, I'm looking here at the space inside my square. To define it further, it's the space inside a closed, flat 2D shape. What do I mean by that? Well, if I pull up 3 further shapes here, I've got a triangle, and that would be the area of the triangle, the space it covers on the inside. Here, again, that would be the area covered inside this shape. If I think about my definition I've just given you, the space inside a closed flat 2D shape. Because this isn't a closed shape, there's a gap here. We talked about closed shapes on Friday. Because there is a gap here, that means that I cannot find the area of this shape. So it's got to be a flat 2D shape. You might think about the surface area of a 3D shape, so a shape that we can pick up. So things like a cuboid, for example, it might have a rectangular face. You might be able to work out the surface area, but more often than not, you would come across area when thinking and looking at 2D shapes. So if I pull up an example, oh, why not? I'll pull up 2 examples. I'm looking at working out as I said already, the space inside the shape. Okay, to work out the area inside a rectangle, you would use the formula length times width. So length being 8 centimeters on this rectangle here, and the width being 3 centimeters on that rectangle here. So to work out the perimeter here, I would do 8 times 3. Because I've just said I'm using my length, my width labels to give me a perimeter of 24. And again, I'm looking at my units of measure. In this case, it's centimeters, so it has centimeters here. But crucially, it would always be something squared. So centimeter squared, millimeter squared, meter squared. And you'd represent that with a small number 2 after your units of measure there. Essentially, what that is saying, because it's a rectangle, and we know that this measurement here is 8 centimeters, which means this one must be 8 centimeters, that one's 3, so this one must be 3. Essentially, what it's saying here, using my width measurement, I've got 3 columns. 3 columns of 8 centimeters. So I've got column, 3 columns running down the shape here, and each column is broken up into 8 centimeters. So in total, the number of squares inside my flat 2D rectangle here would be 24 centimeters, which is where I get my my formula from here. Again, over the side here, this time I've got a width of 6 centimeters and a length of 4 centimeters. Again, length times width would give me 24 again. So there are different ways, remember, centimeter squared. There are different ways of showing the same area. These 2 rectangles look different. Okay, they have different measurements on the side. Okay, but when I'm looking at the area, times the length by the width, I end up with the same value. So they look different, but they represent the same area. They have the same area. In this case, you've almost got to visualize 6 columns, so broken up into 6 going across from left to right, and in each of my 6 columns having 4 centimeters. In total, as like in the first example, there are 24 centimeters squared, which would be the area of the rectangle. That's quite as tricky as it gets, really, Year 5 today. Today's examples on the sheet will start with rectangles or shapes drawn where you can just count the squares, which is really, really straightforward. Literally, all you have to do is count how many squares that the shape covers, or how many squares are inside the shape that's drawn out on the sheet, and then write your answer, not forgetting centimeter squared or whatever it might be written as a unit of measure. Then it gets on to more trickier stuff where you've got to do your length times width, which I've talked about here. But that is kind of as hard as it gets, really. So it's hopefully quite a nice, straightforward start to the week for you. Only a shorter video, and the lesson shouldn't take you too long either. Keep an eye out on my maths over the next week or so. You'll find some area and perimeter work appearing on there, so you can be recapping your knowledge from this lesson and the lesson from last week when we looked at perimeter. So when you get a chance, or if you finish your work quite quickly, getting onto my maths and doing some of those tasks as well will keep your knowledge flowing and keep your brain ticking over, hopefully. Okay, there we go then. I'll leave it with you. Area of rectangles for today's lesson. Good luck, and I will see you tomorrow.